Welcome to FFC Top 3, a show where we, your FFC hosts, count things down from 3 to number 1. Thank you for joining us this week. If you have a suggestion, you know where to hit us up at Twitter, Discord, at gmail.com for Focus Fire Chat. This week, we've been a few weeks, but this week we're actually discussing our top 3 people that inspire or motivate us to be better. So, that being said, it's a fairly uncontroversial one. There's not a whole lot of like sandwiches showing up randomly or anything like that. And if you were just in live chat with us, we actually had a long lost host show up for just a hot minute there. Justin popped into chat and said hi, and he's excited about next week's top 3, so we might get him on there for that. But this week we have a special guest in that we have our resident Halo lore galore, Mr. pensHALO. And Pens, I'm actually going to have you go first for us. So okay. What is your number 3?
Well, it's not really a person, but it's actually the movie The Longest Day, which at the time it had all the big names in it: John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, and whatnot. And the reason that is because it actually started my interest in joining the military, which I eventually did. So that I caught that movie on a Sunday afternoon one time on TV, and I was hooked. So that's what I always point back to whenever people ask how I got started enjoying them, an interest in joining the military, and that one was it.
Okay, so it's just it led you into kind of wanting to serve.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing of D-Day and that whole thing of I think the phrase was it uncommon valor was a common virtue. It kind of fits it. Just a massive undertaking, and from Canadians, British, the French that were involved, the U.S. troops, of course, paratroopers, all that story it had me riveted, and I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. Nice. I want to serve like that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where it came from. So
yeah, it's so funny how movies or like music can inspire you to do something different. Funny little story. I have a really bad habit of after I watch a movie, I immediately want to go and act like mainly it's like the heroine of the show or whatnot. I want to go act out that kind of lifestyle. Like if it's, I don't know, not a movie, but like Xena, I want to go work out and be like the strong person. Movies are well done. Movies do that. And I like that kind of thing. Blue. What's your number 3?
So fair warning, I was not aware that it had to be an individual. I thought it was just like motivational or inspirational things. So
okay, I mean we can switch it to that.
None
real
of mine
easily.
Are people.
I'll be the odd one out. It's okay. Totally fine.
Right. I mean, I can revamp them on the fly if we need to, but so my number 3. My number 3 is honestly anybody who follows me over on Twitter won't be surprised, but I really like being a pretty prolific reader. One of the biggest things that I find motivates me is just quotes. Like different statements from various people. There's not like I can't really tell you like, oh yeah, this particular quote is like 100% always my motivation, because that's not how my brain works, I guess. So like I try to every day just have a quote in the back of my mind, and what I've started doing, I think, God man, it's been 2 or 3 years now. One of the first things I started doing when I really started trying to get more active on social media was I started sharing those. And I, every now and then I'm like, I don't know if people really care about it, but it seems like every time I start being like, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it, because I don't want to, I don't want to pester people, which, it's kind of a weird thing, because that's kind of what social media is designed to be, is a constant pestering, I feel like. But every time I have kind of started being like, I don't know if I really think this is like helping me, like it, I don't know. Every time, without fail, I get messaged by somebody who is like, thanks for sharing that. That really helped. And I was like, I'm like, okay, cool. It takes like 30 seconds out of my day, and if it helps someone else, then I think that's worth it. But I find that the nice thing and the beauty of quotes is that things have been said multiple times already. Like there's arguably not a lot of original content out there anymore. And instead of trying to reword something, and try to find a clever way, it's better to kind of, learn from those who have come before us. And I've always just found that to be the easiest way to kind of express, thoughts and kind of also try to help guide my mindset. One of the things is, we, as most people know, we're pretty close with the Saint 14 guys, or I guess it's Project Guardian. I think they just went through a revamp of that, but like mental health is a big thing. I studied psychology for a large part of my educational life, and I deal with a lot of depression and stuff like that as well, just personally. And so one of the big components of dealing with that successfully is actively reshaping how you look at things. It's helping shift your paradigm so that instead of focusing on the negative, you try to focus on the positive. And quotes just kind of help, start the day. It's just it's a way of, before the day even starts, it's kind of guiding how the day is going to go. And that has, over the past a long while, even before I started sharing them online, that was a trick that I'd always do, is just, it was just like a daily thing to kind of like, it's not like a daily affirmation, but it kind of is. It's just something to kind of help start that process of, hey, no, we're going to focus on this aspect. That's really kind of a lot of my top 3 for tonight, actually, is going to be that kind of concept.
Okay.
Well, words have so much power, and especially if they're well put together. So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I mean,
and I don't know, like there's so many things out there that are just, to kind of get
thoughtful.
A little, well, there's that, but I mean, just to go a little cheesy too, it's just, there's so many things that have been so beautifully said. And if you don't like hunt them down and read them, they will be lost. And, if I can, in some small way, also part of me is thinking, if I can somehow make some random person be aware of something that they didn't know of before, I think that's kind of also, I think that's important. I think that will help in the long run too, because if you have an introduction to, like Herodotus or Plato or Aristotle or Shakespeare. I don't do a lot of Shakespeare quotes because I'm not a huge fan of him. But like
Shakespeare has some great.
Like
insults.
my
insults would be what I would post from Shakespeare.
My brother actually, he gets us every year for Christmas, we get desk calendars from him, and that's what he got me this year, was the Shakespearean insult calendar.
They're so great.
Oh my gosh, they're hilarious. But and so like, yeah, I mean, I've been chuckling. It brings a smile. Like, just the play on words is the guy. Shakespeare is by far a genius. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that, but like for like the motivational stuff, I just find myself always kind of more, and it's not. I really don't. I don't go with like the cheesy, you can do it, like I call them demotivators, but like the motivational poster thing. I don't do that. I try to have something with some substance in it. Like, whether it's like recently I've been on kind of a kick about like the concept of justice, legal justice. Like, like how you should try to be, like how a good person should try to be a just person. And I just find that I get every now and then I'll just get random people who are like, I really like this. And I have no knowledge of who these people are, but it's something out there. And my thought is like, if I can in some small way introduce a new person or a person to a new thinker or a new author, and then that helps them, find, because books are just like, books are real life magic, right? I think it's Carl Sagan who I think it was Sagan who made the comment about like, books are just like portals. They're time travel devices.
Yeah, they put you into a different world.
And they're just that is in itself, that is real magic. Like that is something. Words are, depends, you said it, words are powerful. And I don't know, I've always felt that, and so that's just something that's kind of a way it's manifested.
My number 3 is actually kind of similar, and I switch mine up on the fly since I'm the odd woman out at this point. But you post out your quotes daily, which I do. I have your Twitter alerted on my phone every morning, and I do get to see those, which is helpful. And I like quotes too, but my thing that I like to tweet out are space images.
Yes.
Because there's nothing more humbling in some respects than seeing just the crazy things out in space, whether it is like from Earth's perspective or from like the Hubble telescope or even the infrared scopes where they're capturing infrared images. I will admit, I kind of cheat. I have it set up where it'll auto tweet out from NASA when they post something. So I'm not actually going out and finding these images, but when they do pop up on my timeline, I get an alert and I get to go see them as well. So I like seeing them. I know a few people who follow me online enjoy them as well. And it's something that just helps put things in perspective a little bit on how little I am compared to everything else. I mean, I'm a little person in general, but the world is a big place and space even bigger.
On that,
I still think you could
go for it.
Go ahead. Go. No, I was just going to say, I don't think you can go wrong with any image from NASA because they're all frankly.
There's a reason that there is a huge subreddit dedicated to that thing, period. Like there's so many, and it's one of the more popular subreddits too, because what a lot of people will do is they'll have their phones set to automatically update whenever that subreddit posts a new picture. And it does I think it does a similar thing probably to what you have set up, Green. And there's some just, oh my gosh, they're just, speechless is the best way to describe some of them. But there is actually, I was going to say, I'm trying really quickly to find it. There is a Twitter account that they take the Crooked Cosmos. Have you seen this?
I haven't.
So it's a concept called glitch art. It's really cool. So what this guy does is he takes pictures from of NASA. He takes pictures from NASA, and then he has an AI or a logarithm that runs, and it basically pixel sorts the pictures. Yeah. And so I'll share it with chat, and then you know what? I'll actually put them in the show notes for this one too.
Yeah, but, they're really pretty.
Oh my god!
Well, it's like brush strokes of space with elevation.
But the first one is wow.
Oh yeah, well, and like he's been doing it for, I think he's been doing it for a couple. 2016 was when he started, and this is one of the few accounts on social media that I have specifically set up a audit tracker. I have an audit tracker.
Oh really?
So every single time he posts a new picture, I have it sent, and I have a link established into a Google Drive document. Because I'll be honest, some of these pictures have actually helped with creating banners for Focus Fire.
That makes sense.
It's for, if you read, like if you go back into the history of this particular account, like really far back, he kind of explains like the logarithm concept of what it is, and it's it's not simple, but it's also not like, he's not like breaking the fourth wall or like, doing anything super complicated. But he's taking different pictures of like nebulas and stuff like that, and then he's applying the pixel shaders or like pixel shifts to them, and it's just and then so it's called glitch art, is apparently this genre of art, and it's all over the place. Like if you start looking for glitch art, apparently it's apparently a large thing. I have no idea, but like his profile picture is like still one of my favorite ones. But as soon as you said that, I was like, I need to make sure I bring this up, because this guy has it's just amazing stuff.
There's a reason why it's still fascinating to everybody. The unexplored frontier, the unknown. Anyway, that actually takes us to our number 2. So Pens, would you like to kick this one off?
Well, sticking on the theme of words, it's the poem If by Rudyard Kipling.
Okay.
I never had to actually read this in school, but I ended up can't remember why I picked up a book of poetry and it kind of just was leafing through it. And I came across this one and I read it. Because was it? Yeah, Kipling did on Flanders Fields. Which is a World War I poem, which is really awesome as well. But I started reading through it, and it just struck a chord with me. The whole idea of don't let yourself get too high or too low. Try to stay balanced. And essentially, it's just how to be a good person, really. And like I said, it just struck a chord with me. And there are many times, especially in IT, I'm sitting on the phone with a customer about ready to rip his head off, and all I can think of, if you can keep your head when all about you are losing there, blaming it on you. It's like, yeah, if you're in IT, that fits.
Nice. I need to actually look that poem up because I don't think I've ever read that one. I did poetry reading in high school too, so I had to do a lot of searching. Kipling was not one I looked at. Do you have a link to it real quick, or do you want me to just kind of dig while Blue goes?
Nope, got it.
Awesome. Thank you. Blue, can you go ahead and do your number 2 while I'm reading through the poems?
My number 2 is actually kind of a toss-up. In general, it's you kind of commented about this before, Green, but it's music. I do a lot of just like background music. Glitch hop is one of my big favorites, just because the sensation that the electronica is usually the genre that I kind of gravitate towards. For no other reason than it kind of is. I've never heard like a sad electronica music. Like that genre is not really designed for that emotion. Like there can be some lyrical stuff that's not super happy, but like the actual music is always got, it's always got that beat. It's always got an uplifting beat. And so that's, again, kind of going back to, just subconsciously kind of helping orient my mental state there. Nice. The other thing actually is talking a little bit again about poetry, is Desiderata. Desiderata is a poem that actually the history is not really known at all. It was basically just found. I think technically, the last time I think it was argued is it's from the 1920s by, I think it's Max Ehrmann, I think is what a lot of people are kind of attributing it to. But a lot of times you'll see it as like, we don't know. But it's also a really desiderata is Latin for desired things. It's just it's kind of similar to the poem that Pins was actually talking about. It's just talking about like acceptance, like just going through life with a calmness. Like it's not like there's nothing. I think one of the lines is go placidly amid the noise and the haste and remember what peace there may be in silence, as far as possible without surrender, be on good terms with everybody. It's not, don't sacrifice what you know is to be true, but also don't like antagonize people, really is what a lot of it is about. And it's something that I've read that poem for a long time. It's a constant. I have that poem framed in a number of rooms in my house because I just find that text so kind of soothing to read as well. So yeah, that would be my number 2.
Nice. I don't actually have any poems or necessarily like short text that I find super, super uplifting. I tend to be like long book series that I'm like really pumped up to read a lot of times. Like there's a few different book series that I specifically have reread probably 6 or 7 times at this point, easily. Beard talked about reading through Art of War kind of on a yearly basis. I almost feel like I'm doing that with 2 different series now. The Kushal's Dart series or the Stormlight Chronicles by Brandon Sanderson. Sanderson's one is definitely super motivating and uplifting because he pulls his characters that have such incredible flaws, and instead of like overcoming quote unquote those flaws, he uses those to help shape not only the world around them, but also be able to utilize those quirks that they have and overcome things in the world, which I think is brilliant because it just shows the inclusion of all of that. As far as my number 2, and that's just me kind of getting off on a rant, my number 2 is something my wife has to make me do every once in a while. And then once I'm actually doing it, it feels great. And I think that I should do it more often. And then it goes for a while before I have to do it again, which is going hiking or going out and hanging out in nature, whether I've got my feet in like a mountain stream or hiking through the mountains, hiking in snow, being out in nature where there's lots of trees and kind of that comfort of being out and about. Water is something I specifically crave after a little bit of time. Just
the sound.
Well, not just the sound, like even being in it, like the sound is super soothing. But if I were to just listen to an audio track of water, I get really annoyed because that doesn't do it for me because it's not actually happening. My mother had my brothers essentially helped her dig out a pond in our backyard when I was growing up, and the waterfall there was even enough for me to just kind of sit out and watch it and just watch how it moves. It was always soothing that way. So mountain streams, mountain air, mountain hiking. I grew up in Kansas, so this doesn't make any such a big thing for me, but it is something that really helps my psyche and kind of decompress and get out of the internet world for a little while because I'm here a lot. But
yeah, that's kind of how I felt when Aaron and I went to Sedona.
Oh, such a beautiful city. Weird city. Super weird.
A little bit. Well, I mean, but just where we were, just hearing the wind, the trees in the canyons and whatnot, and watching the light as you watch the sun move and watching light travel across the Red Rock. Just, yeah.
It's a neat little town. Did you hike up and to see the trees and how they twist?
No, we really didn't do that, but we did take a Jeep tour into the Coconino National Forest. So I did get to see some of that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sedona, I don't think I would ever live in Sedona. It's way too warm for my taste, but it's a really pretty area. And if you are traveling through Arizona, that is a nice place to stop because it's not as hot as the majority of Arizona, but there's a little bit of that, and there's a lot of art, and there's this really neat Catholic chapel actually that Julie and I went to while we were there.
Yep.
Chapel on the Rock, I think is what it was called.
The Chapel of the Red Rocks. It actually is a true chapel.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful up there. Yeah.
It's very pretty. It's very naturally built, unlike your typical cathedrals or your typical Catholic churches where you have that kind of that column with the two alcoves built. It's very much so natural, and a lot of natural light and everything is going through it, which is a unique and beautiful experience for sure.
And there is the most god-awful looking house just below it.
Yeah, there is, obscuring the view because
it's just
too much money.
Yes. I mean, when we were there last time, we were talking to somebody. It's like, yeah, that's actually somebody's house. And it's like, who would put that there? And it's like, yeah, a prick. That's who did it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that actually brings us to our number ones. You ready, Pins?
Yep. Okay, here's where I sound like a sap. It's going to be Erin, my wife.
Yay!
I've said this a lot, and it's actually a line that was originally used to describe, for anyone who remembers X-Files when it was actually good. It was a description that David Duchovny said that Scully was Mulder's human credentials, and that's what Erin is for me. Everything changed when I met her, and she just makes me want to be better. And I mean, like with any couples, we have our disagreements, we have our arguments, but she's amazing, and she puts up with me quite a bit. And you know, when I told her that I'm on a podcast, tonight, she kind of looked at me and went, "You got school tomorrow. What are you going to do?" It's like, you just have to and, she accepts when she goes, it's like, okay, I'm going to go downstairs. She goes, fine. All right.
Yeah.
But, no, so it's sappy and whatnot, but she definitely is what helps keeps me getting up in the morning, keeps me going. So, yeah.
Yeah. My wife pokes me. She's the one that is pushing me to do things that I wouldn't do myself all the time. And
she was actually my sounding board for whenever I was going back and forth about going back to school.
Mm-hmm. Family's important.
Oh yeah. Yeah. She played a little bit of devil's advocate and whatnot, and kind of challenged me to make sure this wasn't just something to do, and that I really wanted to do it. So yeah.
Awesome. Blue, can you follow up the wife thing with pins?
Yeah, mine is going to be actually kind of similar. It's going to be my family, especially, my wife, my son, because, I think it's a common thing for those of us who have a family or who have someone, special in their lives, a significant other, what have you. I think there's an inherent drive to be better if you're in that type of situation, because you want to give the best, especially with, children. I find a lot of my friends who are parents, as opposed to my friends who aren't parents, if you ask them, hey, what makes you do what you do, and what gives you the strength or the strength, I guess, to get through like the grief of each day, a lot of times they're gonna say the kid, or the family, because there's an inherent drive to give the best, to leave the best, to make the world a better spot for that. And I think that, for me, definitely that's a huge reason that I do what I do, throughout the day, is because I know that it allows me to give what I can back to my family. And I think, for me, I don't know, that might be just my personality, but for me, that lets me get the strength to put my head down and deal with a lot of grief and a lot of, friction, stress, whatever word you want to use for it, whatever particular sentence enhancer, as I called it earlier in chat, you want to use for it. At the end of the day, sometimes it's just about putting your head down and getting through it. And I know that's not like super helpful. I know that's why I'm not a motivational speaker. Because my response to a lot of times when people are asking me, like, how do you put up with that? And it's like, I just grit my teeth and get through it. Like, I know it's not helpful. I know that a lot of people don't have that mentality, as far as like, I want to call it like pragmatism, but it's really just kind of stubbornness.
It probably is a little bit more on the stubborn side.
I mean, you can call me bullheaded and I probably wouldn't be too offended. I'd probably agree with you, honestly. Because for me, it's just a matter of like, I'm like, no, this needs to get done in order for, whatever it is that I'm having to do. But I don't know. For me, my number one motivator is my family.
Honestly, I think that's for all of us in one way, shape, or form. I was talking about Julie a little bit ago and how she encourages me to try different things. But my number one on top of that is actually somebody who's been passed away and out of my life technically since I was 7. And it's my grandmother. My grandmother is somebody I learned more about as I got older, and was an incredibly strong woman who went through a lot more than I knew at the time. She basically ran away from home, made a lot of mistakes, had my aunt, who I found out about when I was in junior high, gave my aunt up for adoption, then had my mother and moved to Colorado. And she was basically a single mother in the 60s, which is not an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
or wasn't. Wow. Yeah. And she helped raise my mom. And then my papa came into the picture and adopted her and everything. But she was not shy. She was a looker. She was not shy about getting what she wanted and what she needed and making sure things happened no matter what it took. And so her story has always kind of helped me. And she died when I was very young, to ovarian cancer. had breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And she was kind of my best friend for those first 7 years of my life. And all the way through high school, every single performance I went out on and did, I don't know if I would call it praying, but I basically kind of talk to her and dedicate things to her and kind of still continue to do so and just try to live up to her orneriness and her free-spiritedness. And I mean, she's an important person. Thing. Yeah. I mean, she's an important person. She doesn't take from anybody. And I think that's a wonderful trait to have. So yeah, family is super important, whether it's your wife, your immediate family, or a loved one who passed a while ago. But that kind of wraps us up for our top 3 this week. It's a little bit of a sad one at the ending, and I'm sorry for that. But next week, we're going to talk about family again. And Justin helped pick this topic a little bit while he was here earlier. And we're going to talk about our top 3 favorite family moments or traditions. So we might have some silly, funny stuff, some really beautiful moments next week, but we will definitely have that family connection and just kind of being close and enjoying that kind of thing with each other. So thank you for joining us for top 3 this week. I appreciate you. You motivate us to do this kind of crazy podcast thing every single week, whether or not we're doing top 3 or we're doing the normal show. You guys are some of our motivators. So be good, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. And remember, everybody loves a list,